In 1988, a sequel walked in with a chip on his shoulder. Marion is murdered on screen, and the Black Warriors think the Lee brothers will fold. Instead, they bring the fight back to the streets, with new moves, harder hits, and based on purely revenge. And back in the day, first time I saw this opening where she just gets gunned down, I think the whole arcade went quiet for a second. I mean, everybody was stunned. And then, chaos. And I feel like Double Dragon 2, to me, the arcade version anyway, doesn't get the props and the love it deserves. There's a reason for that, but with the first game being a blockbuster phenomenon and changing the way we play beat 'em ups, why doesn't this game get the love it deserves? Well, we're going to answer that question. There's the story of Double Dragon 2 The Revenge, the arcade, the sequel that turned grief into fury. Now, Technos Japan had already changed arcades with Double Dragon back in 1987. Director Yoshihisa Kishimoto, also the guy behind Renegade, knew co-op street brawling worked, but the team wanted a darker hook and tighter controls, so the sequel put pain front and center, literally starting with Marion's death. And that opening wasn't just a shock value, it gave every punch a purpose. Now, people always wonder why Double Dragon 1 and Double Dragon 2 look so similar, even down to the level design. Well, Double Dragon 2 actually began as an upgrade kit to the first game, but it had memory increases and let it grow into a standalone release. Reusing and improving the assets already in the first game, controllers flipped to directional attack buttons, left attack, and right attack. And this would mirror Kishimoto's early design in Renegade, helping you hit threats in the front and back without turning around. Now, it does feel a little awkward at the beginning, kind of like Renegade, but once you get it down, I always think of it like this. Usually the further button left punches left, and the further button right pushes right, and it takes a little bit to get that down, but once you get it down, it definitely opens up the whole genre. So it takes a little bit getting used to, but definitely worth it if you can master it. Now, you do keep most of the moves from the first game. Double Dragon 2 keeps the co-op brawler core, but adds some swagger. And one of the biggest additions being the Hurricane Cyclone Kit. You jump and then spin, and then you wipe out a ring of enemies when timed right. And the timing can be a little difficult. It depends on which version you play, but for the most part, once you get the timing down, you're pretty much good to go. And then with the fighting directional system, it turns the panic into rhythm, so it definitely helps you out with crowd control. Basically push toward the strike and opposite the back kick. And the missions move pretty quick. It's a pretty short game as well. You got the heliport, the lumberyard, the farm, and the hideout. And each level has set piece hazards and ambushes. So let's go deeper into the mechanics of the gameplay, because I think this is where a lot of people sleep on Double Dragon 2, and this is what makes it good. I mean, first of all, the challenge factor here is way more than the original. I mean, back in the day, as fun as Double Dragon was, it was synonymous with the elbow. I mean, the elbow pretty much broke the game in a fun way. I mean, we love Double Dragon for that, but at the same time, it made it to where anybody, for the most part, with the exception of that jump on level 3, where you got to jump across the bridge, and then those statues that stab you, and then maybe the rocks that slide out. For the most part, you can buy your way through Double Dragon just using the elbow. But with this one, I mean, the elbow is still there, but it's harder to pull off, and the enemies are a lot smarter in this game. They duck. So using your cyclone kick might miss a lot of times, and the elbow definitely missed. And the enemies on this game are way more aggressive than on the first game. I mean, everybody's got their own set of moves. I mean, the bad guys, even the big guy here, he can jump in the air and stuff like that. So they're a lot more agile, and they're a lot more aggressive, and they're a lot smarter with cornering you. And even the ones like Linda, before she's had a couple of punches and she had the whip, here she has an elbow. I mean, she picks up weapons. Same thing with same thing with these Williams here. And I guess this is crazy looking Lopar. Kind of reminds me of Torch from G.I. Joe, from the Dreadnoks. I mean, he's got this shovel he always throws. So enemies are a lot more aggressive. Also, one of the key facts that I think a lot of people miss about Double Dragon is the intensity of it. I mean, and what makes it harder than the original is the design of the game. Now, let me explain what I'm talking about when I say that. If you look at the level designs on the first one, you had Double Dragon 1, you had a whole lot of open areas. So that gave you more room to move around and kind of position the enemies where you need them to be when you do the elbow or punch and kick or whatever you're going to do. In this game, they were smart by doing it in a very subtle, sneaky way, compacting the stages. So your area of dodging around a lot of times throughout this game are a lot shorter. So you can get double teamed a lot easier, and it's a lot more chaos because of the confined quarters. And I think they do that real sneakily. You really don't notice that unless you're looking for it. And I noticed that after I played this through just now. Yeah, it's a lot tougher, and that's probably one of the main things with it. Also, this one's a quarter munching machine. The difficulty has been ramped up on this game compared to the first one, and without the elbow to guide you through everything, yeah, you're definitely gonna put some money into this. Another key part of this game, which actually improves it in my opinion, is your moves aren't broken. Like first Double Dragon, you had the elbow, and if people played the game enough and actually broke the punch button, you could kind of half-ass get through the game with that back kick he had. You push both the push, jump, and kick, and he wouldn't do the elbow, but it was still a back attack. So you can kind of get through the game with that as well if the elbow wasn't working. This one, the enemy AI is a lot smarter. They actually duck a lot more, and they're just more strategically placed. So your moves are great, the cyclone quick and everything, but it doesn't take hella damage. It looks cool, but it doesn't take a whole lot of damage. So it's kind of a more even playing field. And like I said, the move in the game is sped up, so the action's a lot faster as well. So yeah, definitely this game is a lot more challenging than the first one. Now this game did introduce new weapons and new hazards. Like one of the parts here is when you fight the guy, when you fight Jeff, and Jeff's the guy from the old Double Dragon that looks like you, that has all your moves. He's a lot better in this game as well, a lot faster. And you do have a part where the tractor comes out. There are a couple of him throughout, and it did introduce new enemies as well. Got the gentleman with the I guess they're kendo sticks or whatever, the little the sticks or whatever. He's pretty tough. So they did step up they did ramp up the difficulty on some of the enemies and what. Now we talk about the plot here. The plot is pretty lean. Billy and Jimmy seek revenge against the Black Warriors after Marion's murder. The bosses return meaner, and the final battle cements the revenge subtitle. I mean, to start wordless storytelling lets the action do the talking. You don't need a bunch of like cues and pop-ups. I mean, the story, when she gets shot, that puts everything in motion. Now, one thing to note with this game, with the arcade version, when Marion dies, she dies. And they would bring her back in like the console versions. We'll look at some of the ports in a minute, but in those versions, lots of times spiritually she'll come back and she's not really dead. But in the actual arcade Double Dragon 2 in canon, Marion actually dies. So that was a big shock back in the day. So that's one canon way you can look at it. But she would reincarnate in other forms and become like and actually move on to major roles in the Double Dragon franchise as a fighter, as a police officer or police instructor, and just all other kind of things they give her. But in the arcade, she's gone. So we'll take a look at some of the ports for this game, because I mean, Double Dragon 2, I feel like it didn't get its props like it deserved, but it did spawn a whole bunch of arcades, and we'll talk about that more towards the end, why I think some of the problems Double Dragon 2 had, not because of a bad game, but just some of the things that tragically happened during its life cycle. But first up, we got the arcade version, and this is going to be the one that I don't know if most people are familiar with. I think most people are familiar with the NES version, but if you play Double Dragon 2 in the arcade, this is the gold standard that we're going to hold the rest of the ports to. And this, to me, is probably one of the most fun games you can play. I mean, yeah, it was kind of a quarter muncher, but you can kind of tell how the movement's a lot better. If you played some of the old Double Dragons, it had very choppy movement in certain places and a ton of slowdown. But this one does everything right. I mean, it keeps the familiar sprites of Double Dragon, but the backgrounds are a lot nicer. And one thing you'll notice with this game, a lot of the levels are kind of the same as the first one in certain ways by design, because we got to remember this is an upgrade kit. But overall, strong showing for Double Dragon here. And like I said, most of your moves are here. The complex is, the battle system is smooth, and the combat smooth, and definitely very challenging, but fair in a sense. Once you get it down, you'll kind of be good. And I do like the way they had Renegade, where they actually had the same button format. So yeah, beautiful game for what it was, and definitely a true sequel to the first one. Next up, we got Double Dragon The Revenge, the Amiga, and this one's actually pretty cool. I mean, the Amiga version, it looks, to me, one of the better looking ones. Looks like the arcade, a little choppier, but the speed is decent, and this one is actually playable. A lot of these versions, they usually operate with one button because it's kind of hard to get the moves off. But you can do all the moves in the game. It does have 2-player, and to me, the game looks great. I mean, it's a very beautiful game. I mean, it is a lot more challenging than the arcade version, just because of the not so much because of the difficulty, but just kind of the way the game moves by design. But other than that, I mean, very playable port. You definitely can get through the end with this one, and it pretty much keeps most of the stuff in the game. Very nice. And it definitely keeps most of the stuff in the arcade. Enemies are in the right spot, and you can't have multiple enemies on screen. So yeah, I mean, the AI is kind of stupid because when you move, they move. Not just like that, but me just being stupid. But anyway, they kind of shadow and mirror you more than arcade. Kind of makes them space out a little better, but this one they feel kind of like a lot more artificial and AI kind of like. But at the same time, still a great showing for the Amiga. So yeah, we're gonna move on. This is probably one of the better ports of the game that's true to the arcade. And next up, we're gonna take a look at the Amstrad, and the Amstrad's always lets me down. But at the same time, I will say this is probably one of the better showing of an arcade translation. I mean, you can tell, definitely tell it's modeled after the arcade. You can definitely tell it's Double Dragon. It does play a lot slower than the other versions we just looked at, but at the same time, it does keep the arcade style of Billy and Jimmy and the arcade sprites. The other versions will have whole different sprite versions, but this one you can definitely tell it's modeled after the arcade. You do have 2-player in this one. The music's terrible, and the frame rate is pretty bad as well, and the pixels can be kind of pixelated, but for the most part, I mean, you can definitely tell you're playing Double Dragon 2 here. You do have your moves, you have the elbow and everything like that, but yeah, there's definitely better ways to play this game. Not the, well, it might be the, I don't know, but anyway, not great. If you can play Double Dragon 2 a different way, definitely give it a shot. But here's the Amstrad, definitely a good showing for what it is, but yeah, it definitely can use some work. And next up, we got the Game Boy version. This one's a kind of a portable. This one's kind of Double Dragon 2, but not really. It kind of looks like the sprites from the Double Dragon 1 for the NES. And your moves, you don't have all the moves you have in the arcade. And the story is completely different. I mean, you are basically, you don't have all, I don't think you got the Cyclone Kick. If you do, I couldn't get it to work. But basically, you have this move, you squat down, and then you come back up with like a Dragon Punch Shoryuken kind of deal. But overall, for handheld, it's not bad. It carries, I feel like a game carries a Double Dragon 2 name, but I wouldn't really call it Double Dragon 2. It's kind of its own thing, but it is called Double Dragon 2, and it's a Double Dragon 2 video. We'll go over it, we will cover it, but it's not the worst game. It's fun, but it does get repetitive only because the limited moveset you have and the design of the game. But overall, for Game Boy, I think it's pretty cool. I actually do, in my mind, prefer the original Double Dragon on the Game Boy as opposed to this one. But still, not too bad. But yeah, yeah, just think of it as its own thing. And next up, we'll take a look at the Sega Genesis version, Double Dragon 2, and this is a really good port of the game. It has smooth movement. It does look, you can definitely tell it's based off the arcade as well. I mean, the graphics on the game are very good. I mean, you do have 2-player for this one as well. The only thing I'd say, you can definitely tell that it has been scaled down from the arcade. It doesn't look as fresh, and the sprites don't look as good as the arcade, but for what it is, it does look pretty good. I felt like the Genesis version is a little harder, and again, not from just the game being hard, it's just kind of the design. You do get the parts when you hit the obstacles here. I mean, I think some of the collisions pretty bad. Also, they do meter you a lot in this game, so it's hard. Sometimes it can be challenging getting up, and that can be kind of frustrating. Especially if you look right here at the end where we got the sliding blocks that come out. It luckily doesn't take a crap ton of damage, but at the same time, it's hard for you to get up. You can just get like skull dragged by these things. And there's certain things like that all throughout the game that kind of do that to you in this version. But overall, I still think a very good showing for the Sega Genesis. I just feel like certain things they could have tweaked, and at the Genesis life cycle at this point, they could have made this a little smoother of an experience. But not to say it's a bad port. It's actually pretty cool. Just nitpicking here with things I'd like to see better with this one. But overall, if you got a Sega Genesis, this is definitely worth a playthrough if you like Double Dragon 2. It does put everything in the game. You do get to the end with Willy and stuff like that, and you know, your Shadow lookalike. So yeah, this is a pretty accurate port to the arcade. And then you have the one that most people are going to be familiar with, the NES version of Double Dragon for the NES, and this is probably the version that most people have played. This one is kind of loosely, but in Nintendo fashion, it's loosely based on arcade. It does have parts that are exclusive only. Well, I won't even say exclusive. We'll see that in the port later on. But this is one that definitely has, you know, its own thing going. Like the characters look a little different. They do have some of the same moves, but this one will introduce this broken knee strike. Okay, this is what this game is synonymous for. I mean, you thought the elbow was bad. This thing takes the kid. This is probably the most broken move I'd say in beat 'em up history. The knee slash, or the flying knee. I mean, this thing takes hella damage. It's easy to pull off. You can just keep doing it consecutively, and it knocks people like all the way across the screen. So yeah. So Double Dragon 2 for the NES also has some extra stuff in it as well. It does introduce platforming elements, and that's what makes the game super challenging. Not so much the game, but the challenging part here is the platforming, because the platforming in this game is ridiculous. I mean, it doesn't take much to die, and you do have limited continues. Now, there is a code for the second controller. When you die, you can do a code on the second controller, and you can get infinite continues, but you have to do it every time, and you have to know about it. But outside of that, you get so many continues. But overall, this game is super fun, and I think it does it in a good way with the the variation of the levels and stuff like that. It does do a really good job with that. So yeah, and this was another one where this would be the first time on the NES where you had 2 players. So but yeah, this is definitely a strong showing, and this one we're going to get a remake. Now I won't call it a remake, but kind of a love letter of fans. In the, during the PS4 era, they would have Double Dragon 4, I think they would call it, and it'd be based off the Double Dragon 2. It'd be based off this game, the gameplay and the sprites and everything, but just more modernized. So yeah, this one was definitely the most popular one. This is a kick-ass version of Double Dragon 2, a different shoot from the arcade. But yeah, if you haven't played this one, I mean, I'm sure you've played it, but if you haven't played this one, definitely give this one a try. It's a very cool game. Now, the last one we're going to look at is super cool. This one is the Turbografx-CD, and man, they did it. This one I wasn't expecting this one. This one is a really good port of the game. It looks like it's its own thing, but the gameplay is smooth. It kind of looks like a precursor to Super Double Dragon for the Super NES. This kind of what this was. It looks like it's kind of based off that in some ways, but at the same time, it's kind of its own thing, and makes it kind of cool. It's kind of a hybrid because it has some arcade elements. Okay, but then at the same time, it gives you because you got that, you don't have the knee, but you do have the uppercut. When you get knocked down, you can uppercut as soon as you go off the ground and send people flying. Also, it has a whole nother version of level design, which I thought was kind of confusing. Sometimes you go down and you go back up and everything, but overall strong showing. But also what's cool about this game, if we look here, is a lot of these things came from the NES version. Okay, so the parts where you jump across the rocks, that's kind of based on the NES. The parts where you got the gears you can jump up and down on, the disciplinary platforms and stuff like that, pretty cool. But what also makes this one special to me and super fun is the music. The music in this game is freaking awesome, and plus the gameplay, it's very responsive. Now they can kind of overwhelm you. You do get on one tier, and it can be difficult to get the people off you, but for the most part, yeah, it's a super fun game. If you ever have a way to play this game, I'd probably say emulate it, unless you got a Turbografx-CD, which is super rare. Emulate this one, but definitely a fun playthrough. And yeah, you can tell it's Double Dragon still, but if you ask me, it kind of looks more like the Super NES version of Double Dragon. But yeah, definitely give this one a shot. If you look for even some of the boss characters, they've got a redesign, and then even at the same time, this would be one of the games where they have this guy at the end. Okay, and also what's cool about this one, not to mention as well, before I forget, they actually have little cutscenes in there, which are actually pretty cool. This game actually talks. This was a CD-based game, so it actually had really great music and actual real voice acting and real CGI movies, little mini movies. So yeah, this is definitely a pretty cool version, but I have to say it plays a lot like the NES version that we're used to playing, with the platforming and stuff like that. And actually the platforming, this one's actually a lot easier in my opinion than the NES version. So yeah, Double Dragon 2 definitely had quite a few ports. So let's talk about the legacy of this game. So Double Dragon 2, I mean, it was kind of one of the pioneers as far as along with Renegade as crowd control, because you had those, like I said, you had both buttons you could do, and like I said, you had the Renegade style where you can kind of keep people off you. I think, like I say, Renegade did it first, but at the same time, they brought this back for this game to kind of give some more teeth than the first game, in my opinion. And from a shocking opening to tighter, meaner fight system, I mean, it's in a statement about what a co-op brawler could feel like when every strike has a purpose. So it was definitely Double Dragon in my mind growing up. So what I think about Double Dragon 2? Double Dragon 2 is one of those games I feel like it's often, in my mind, if I have to say, maybe misunderstood. Okay, because it didn't get the praise that the first one got. It wouldn't get more praise until it went to the NES, and the NES was a kick-ass game. But I feel like this one was nice as well in the arcade. But I think where it turned people off was a lot of people didn't play Renegade. Okay, so a lot of people's first beat 'em up was actually Double Dragon of that magnitude. And when they played this game, it was a lot of differences. It was, one, it was a lot harder. Two, it was if you didn't play Renegade, you wouldn't understand the control scheme that it had here, so it was very confusing. Two, your elbow didn't work like it used to. Most people were used to just playing with the elbow and getting through. It was there, but it really didn't work. Three, the characters were a lot more aggressive. And then the level design, I mean, like I said, with it being smaller, it made it to where, it made the game a lot harder, where you didn't have all that area you could walk around and set the guys up. Also, another thing was just the hype factor. I mean, Double Dragon 1 was so huge and phenomenal at the time. I feel like it's almost impossible to live up to that hype. I mean, it was a sequel, but then it wasn't a sequel because it was an upgrade. So a true sequel would be like, you know, back in the day when we got sequels, we knew upgrade kits. That was a big thing in arcade. Like when you had a sequel like Street Fighter 1 to Street Fighter 2, that was a sequel. Now Street Fighter 2 to Street Fighter Champion Edition, you could argue that's a sequel, but it's just an upgraded board, upgraded chip, upgraded system. It's the same system, just upgrades to it. And that's kind of what this was. So for a lot of people, it didn't really feel like a true sequel. You can even say that with the NES version of Double Dragon. Double Dragon 1 on the NES and then Double Dragon 2 on the NES felt like a sequel, an upgrade. This one just felt like, I mean, I shouldn't say upgrade, it feels like a whole new game. This one kind of felt like an upgrade. So I think a lot of people tried it and just maybe turned them off just with the difficulty. Also, this one carried a much darker vibe than the original Double Dragon. I mean, and the music, I think the music is impressive, super good for this game. But at the same time, it's not as iconic as the original Double Dragon, only in the sense that that's what we grew up on, that's the one we loved, that's what we wanted. And then we got this offshoot version with new music that was actually pretty good, but it wasn't as familiar as, you know, kids, we like familiar, as gamers, we like things that are familiar to us. And I feel like that was one of the things that hurt this game as well. Also, the fact of the game was just hard. It took a lot of money to beat. Even playing this game now, the game did take a lot more continued as opposed to the regular Double Dragon. You can beat that in 1/4, no problem. But this one, you're going to spend some money. I mean, at least a couple of bucks, because there's so many things that could get you. I mean, the first one, Double Dragon, you just had that jump in the middle of stage 3 and you're fine. After that, you're golden. Maybe the bricks might get you, or maybe that guy, the spikes might get you. But this one, you have all that plus the tractor that comes out, and damage on this game was pretty high, and the enemies were very aggressive and very resilient, you know. So I think that might have turned a lot of people off too. But with all that said, I still feel like this game is super fun, and it's just a shame that it doesn't get the attention that it deserves. The art, and then the home version, you can kind of say that helped kill it as well, because to a lot of kids that was their first time playing it, and then they go to play the arcade, it kind of looked like whatever, you know what I mean? So the arcade was super fun, and I mean the home version was super fun, and it was a lot of people's first Double Dragon, and then you know, they missed out on the arcade. So I feel like most people, when they say Double Dragon 2, unfortunately a lot of people think of the NES version as Double Dragon 2 and just kind of forget about this game altogether. But overall, I mean, give it a chance. I recommend giving it a chance. Go back and play it, and it's actually a lot more fun than you remember. You know, if you played it back in the arcade back in the day and beat the game, it was pretty cool. Another thing I'll say about the character vibe, with the vibe of this game, Double Dragon 2 Arcade, I feel like when they shot Marion, I feel like it was a big shock for a lot of people. I mean, because she died, she didn't come back, and I feel like that was a thing where, you know, it could have been a lot for somebody to process. I mean, even though she was a minor character in the first one, she was the whole reason the fight came about. She was still part of that Double Dragon universe, and I think killing her off, trying to, you know, rip the band-aid off for shock value, I don't know if that paid off like they thought it would. I mean, because some people I think some people don't understand that she's gone, and they just played the PlayStation, or they just played the NES version and stuff like that, where she comes back spiritually. And I think here, when she's gone, I think that might have set well. That might not set too good with people who love the characters, and even with her being part of it, that's still a big blow. And lastly, I'll talk about Willie in this game. I think with him being, he's in the game, looks the same and everything, but he's red in this. I think he didn't have the same teeth, and he didn't come off as the big bad boss and intimidating like he did in the first one. The first one, when you got the Willie with the machine gun, it was a big deal, it was cool. This one, it was kind of like, okay, he's part of the game. I just felt like he wasn't, I mean, he's not the final boss. You got that shadow Double Dragon thing. I don't know if that was just a lazy way of doing it, but whatever. It was cool to think it shoot fireballs and stuff like that, the fake version of Billy and Jimmy, but I just feel like it didn't have that climatic feel that the first one had, with Willie being at the end. He's still kind of at the end here, but he's not the ultimate boss. He's a lot easier here. I mean, you know, you can kind of just punch him to death with no repercussions. But yeah, but overall, I think those are some of the things, and I only say that because I think I'm only playing devil's advocate here, because I feel like these are some of the things that actually stopped this game from being as great as it could have been. But me personally, on a personal note, I love the game. I feel like it's actually a worthy successor of Double Dragon 2 Arcade, but I feel like unfortunately it just didn't hit that high like everybody wanted, and it kind of can be actually hidden, because I didn't see this everywhere. Okay, I saw it at the beginning when it came out, but I didn't see it nowhere near as much as the first Double Dragon game, and it kind of got overshadowed by beat 'em ups like Final Fight and stuff like that that will come out later. But if you get a chance, definitely go back and play this one. So That's all I'm really gonna say about Double Dragon 2. But definitely a classic Double Dragon game. Maybe the forgotten. I mean, if you want to talk about bad Double Dragon games, Double Dragon 3 Arcade, I think that was kind of just, you know, I'll talk about that another time. But I think Double Dragon 3 Arcade. I'm gonna, before I do a review on the game, I'm gonna give it a fair shake. The game left them as a kid. The game left a bad taste in my mouth. I really thought that game sucked. But for the sake of just, you know, who I am, I will definitely play through it again and give an honest review on that game and just kind of see where it's, because it might, I never beat that game, because it might just actually be good. I mean, looking through nostalgic lenses, almost 30 years later, it might actually be a good game. I don't think so, but I will give it the benefit of the doubt. But that's gonna do it with Double Dragon 2, guys. Let me know in the comments your experience with it. Did you like it? Was it everything you thought it was gonna be? Did it fall to the wayside? And have you ever even played it before, the arcade version? So that's gonna do it for this one, guys. And as always, take care of yourself, protect you in peace. God bless you. We'll catch you next episode.